Alabama, the Crimson Tide, had a little bit of a different experience this past January. They watched the national title game, and a lot of people are starting to buzz and ha about Nick Saban and his program, and you know how we feel about that. We're not going to partake in any of the guesstimating and speculating if Nick Saban's done at Alabama and if they've reached their peak. I don't believe that. But David Pollack, during halftime of Monday's national title game, to be fair, there wasn't much to talk about with the game, but he started talking about Georgia and how they have taken hold of the sport. Those are his words, and I would agree with those words. But the interesting thing about it is Nick Saban, Alabama's head coach, was sitting on the desk when David Pollack made those comments. And it wasn't untrue, but you could see Nick Saban's reaction. It wasn't blatant. There wasn't anything overly emotional about it. He didn't make a scene, but you could just tell by his mannerisms. That was something that just tugged a little bit at his emotions. And I mean, how could it not? Being a human being and having been at the pinnacle of the sport for so long and hearing another human being sitting across from you on national television say they're now the standard in college football. They've got the hold of the sport. That would elicit some sort of small reaction, no matter the size. But what I want to talk about is Alabama now, I firmly believe, has a fire lit up under them. Probably even before those comments were made, but a player from Alabama went on Twitter the other day, or maybe it was a former player, I think last night, and he said he's going to use that for a long time. Like all offseason, that's going to be something that sits with Nick Saban. So in the process of getting back to the top, of regaining the crown, snatching the throne, whatever verbiage you want to put to it, how does Alabama go about doing that? I don't think it's a secret. You're losing Bryce Young. And he is one of the best players to ever come through Tuscaloosa, one of the best players to ever touch the rock at the college level. You got to figure out quarterback. This isn't novel analysis. You got Jalen Milroe, you got Ty Simpson. Personally, going into this transfer portal wave, I was sitting there with popcorn and a drink and saying, all right, who are they going to get in the portal? Because is Jalen Milroe winning the national title? I'm asking you. I'm not insinuating. I'm just asking, is Ty Simpson winning the national title? He very well may. So I was really waiting with bated breath to see who they would get in the portal. Right now, I don't know that there is someone available that would be an upgrade. Sam Hartman was a guy you would have been excited to get, I'm sure. Devin Leary, I'm sure, would have fit the bill. A proven commodity. I would just say this. Ty Simpson was a consensus 5-star out of high school. Jalen Milroe was a 4-star. So you're not lacking for talent. Like whoever's left in the portal that's available right now, at least, we'll see what happens with this second wave post-spring. Whoever's available right now probably isn't an upgrade talent-wise. They might be an upgrade experience-wise, but we'll see what happens there. You just have to figure out which one of those guys you want to roll with. And I don't think this is going to be the case come fall, but whoever it is, whoever you pass the keys to out of fall camp, you ride with that guy. Ty Simpson, like I said, is graded a little bit higher out of high school. We haven't seen much of him. I lean more towards him being the unknown commodity with what I saw from Jalen Milroe against Arkansas. That's not to dunk on Jalen Milroe. I'm just saying, in regards to all of the talent across this roster, I think you need someone that can consistently distribute the football. So we'll see what happens there. But on top of that, you're probably going to see some shakeup in the coaching positions at Alabama. I don't know who that's going to be. There's been a lot of speculation on the message boards and on Twitter and the public that they may not have the same set of coordinators. So if that ends up being the case, let's say that Bill O'Brien does go to the NFL. Let's say that he makes that move and you have a new individual calling plays in Tuscaloosa. Well, then that experience in the system that Jalen Milroe had, that advantage gets negated a little bit. So we'll keep an eye on that, but I don't think it's a secret. You got to knock quarterback out of the park. Look at the teams that played in the playoff this year. You had Max Duggan, you had C.J. Stroud, you had Stetson Bennett, you had J.J. McCarthy, all guys that are really good, established quarterbacks within their program. Guys that you can trust on 3rd and 10 can convert for you. So having the quarterback position right is the first ingredient, in my opinion. You got to figure it out. You got some talent on the roster. I don't know that you need to go back to the portal with what's there, but you got to have that solidified. If you have not yet subscribed, we'd love to have you all at the party, man. We've had a ton of y'all Crimson Tide faithful join us recently. We're extremely excited about that. We're extremely grateful to have you at the party. But if you haven't yet joined the program, now's the time, all right? No time like the present. Also, follow me on Twitter and on Instagram at JD Piquel. It's a great medium for us to interact, have a back and forth in real time. The DMs stay open like 7-Eleven. Y'all know the drill. Second piece of this. We talked about the portal. I need Alabama to be surgical in the portal. They did a great job doing that this past offseason, getting Jahmyr Gibbs, getting Eli Ricks, getting guys that they can plug and play right away. Now, Jahmyr Gibbs was phenomenal for them this year. Eli Ricks was a little bit hot and cold, but you hear my point. You don't need to overhaul the roster. You don't need to go and do what Colorado's doing and add 20 guys. You got a ton of talent. I mean, you could argue there is much more talent across your two deep than there is anywhere available in the portal right now. But I would like to see them make a couple of acquisitions. Most notably, wide receiver position. I'm not here to dunk on Jermaine Burton. I think Isaiah Bond is going to be a star. I think they've got a lot of pieces within that room. But with that being said, think about the great Alabama teams that you and I have seen over recent history. They have alphas on the outside. They got dogs. You got Jamison Williams, Devontae Smith, Jalen Waddle, Henry Ruggs. Like, they got dudes that can straight up stretch the field anytime and are good for 6 points just about any time. I don't know who that would be. I would keep an eye. I don't know who that would be in regards to the portal. I would keep an eye on that second wave post-spring. But I need to see some sort of upgrade on the outside. And I wouldn't go so far to say they didn't have talent on the outside. I mean, Tyler Harrell doesn't really play this year. Jermaine Burton is a great receiver. I don't know if he's that, Jamison Williams caliber, pop the top caliber kind of guy. I need someone who can really pop the top consistently. That's what I need for Alabama. Because like I said, the dominant teams that we've seen come through there, they always have that element. Heck, a lot of people will tell you Georgia doesn't even win the national title a year ago if Jamison Williams doesn't get hurt. So for me, I'd love to see them add a piece like that via the portal. Who it is, Nick Saban knows his program much better than me. He knows football much better than me. He's been around the game a very, very long time. I promise you, he will find somebody that he believes can fit his system. But I would still think that Tyler Harrell could be that guy. So maybe it's already in-house, but if you were to go in the portal and add one position, I would look pretty closely at the wide receiver spot for the alpha. Now, the sub-point within that for me is the secondary. You have a lot of talent, and you also lose quite a few guys. But looking back at this Alabama team, talent wasn't the issue. Like, maybe you go and add somebody in the portal, maybe you don't, but talent wasn't the issue in the secondary. It was multiple times where they weren't playing the ball well in the air. The ball's up in the air, you're tugging on jersey, 15 yards. Take a free 15 yards, no problem. Like, that was kind of a drill we saw multiple times with Alabama secondary. And so you say, is talent the issue? You got 4s and 5 stars all over the place. No, it's not the issue. Okay, well, is technique the issue? No, I mean, we've seen them play with great technique all week long, Coach. We got Nick Saban coach them up. Okay, so what's the issue? What I'm left to believe is there is a approach issue. And it's a little bit funny to say that with a place like Alabama, but I think we've seen it become more and more of a problem. And the good news is, history tells us that whenever Alabama has a down year, their approach gets revamped completely in terms of having a new hunger, having a new fire in their belly. Going back to the approach point that I wanted to make, when I say there's an approach issue, I just mean when it comes to the moment where that ball's in the air, you got to make a play. I would see Alabama guys, even though they were in good technique, I say Alabama guys, I would see Alabama players, defensive backs rather, that would not turn around, look at the ball, or that would panic, or that would leave their technique. And to me, like I said, that's an approach thing. That is a calm in the storm kind of thing. That is a alpha kind of thing. And I think some of that could be you come to Alabama and you might feel just a little bit like you inherit what was there before. National titles, first-round draft picks, all that. Because the guys that came before you were in your shoes. They were highly recruited out of high school. They got the same pitch from Nick Saban. Hey, come here and be great. Come accomplish all that you want to accomplish. But now, with this lack of success, the lack of success that they're familiar with having at Alabama, national titles, SEC titles, I think losing for them could be that smelling salt that kind of wakes them up and gets them going a little bit. And for those of you that haven't played sports, or those of you that don't know what I'm talking about with a smelling salt is essentially this aroma where you crack open a little packet before a heavy lift, before kickoff of a football game, whatever it is. Essentially, it is a jolt to the senses that kind of wakes you up a little bit. It's completely legal. I'll just leave that there. It is very much a legal substance, but it is a thing that enhances your performance and wakes you up and gets you going. That's what losing has been in recent history for Alabama. Let's look at the numbers. 2010, multiple loss year, 3 losses. Everyone's mailing in their ballots saying, yep, we're on the Nick Saban is out of there train. Out of there in terms of he's past his prime, not out of Alabama. Let's all be reasonable here. In 2015, they lose the college football playoff, and everyone's saying that's what it is. Once we leveled this playing field and once we had a real playoff, that's what did it. Okay, Nick Saban, thanks for your service to this sport, but the game's passed you by a little bit. 2016, they win the national title. 2020, they finished the year with 2 losses, and everyone's finally saying, okay, all right, now we're actually, now we got it. Now we can really say that the game has evolved too much. There's too much going on as a college football landscape to where Nick Saban is finally past the best part of what he's going to do with that program. 2021, you probably finished that sentence. They win a national title. So the bad years for Alabama's standard of not playing for national titles, not winning the SEC title, whatever that looks like for them, which what we saw them do in 2022, history tells us that's the smelling salt. That's the thing that's going to get them going a little bit. So I very much so believe Alabama will have a different approach. They will have a fire lit under them. They will have a lot of a hunter mentality. And, I mean, all offseason, what did we tell you? Alabama is going to win the national title. Alabama has now tasted their own blood. Alabama is now going to be in go mode. Everybody heard that, including the players in Tuscaloosa. Now, not as many people are talking about them. Now it's Bryce Young's leaving, Will Anderson's leaving. They really are, for the first time in a minute now, being doubted. I think it's going to serve them well. And if I know anything about Nick Saban, and if we're trusting the sample size that is history, I think they're going to be just fine. Got to figure out quarterback. I'd love to see you be surgical in the portal and add one weapon at wide receiver. And we got to revamp that secondary in terms of an approach standpoint, and that's team-wide. But I think those losses will cater to that revamping across the program. So for Alabama, they're in hunting mode. Look out the rest of college football. Hey, y'all, thanks so much for watching. Subscribe to the channel here to make sure you don't miss an episode of The Hard Count. Also, be sure to check out other videos on the On3 YouTube channel.